touch on just the lack of a possibility of commitments on a global scale, but also commitments, the brave commitments that have been made by the small Pacific Island countries. And so if the British government or the US, you think you've got problems, then you can imagine what a politician has to live with after making such a commitment in a small Pacific country. They've got to put food on the table. And these are the issues where, if anything comes out of this meeting, is how do we leverage large? And how do we start to say that these flags that are starting to fly through the oceans on big commitments, they need big political commitments that come from this convergence of acceptance that the oceans are important and they're part of an economic solution, not just at a national level, but they do also meet global climate change issues. And how do you bring the convergence to pay and support some of these big commitments?
Thank you. We have time for about three more comments. Oh, and we're going to have Dr. Thaman.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that I think one of the things you can say about going large is that the conservation community always sells itself short, where compared to the budgets of any country, we're usually the smallest. And it's about time we start showing that we mean business. And so I congratulate you for, those large, I understand that we need to start small, but having these large things really shows, the commitment and also the fact that we're not going to be treated as the small and the insignificant sector anymore, and that we are going to go large. And to my friend Carlos' comment about, not being able to set up these large protected areas near the populations, I have a great positive feeling that this might change. 15 years ago, there was not a single protected area in my island of Pohnpei in Micronesia. That's just 15 years ago. And today we have protected areas all over the island, and I wouldn't be surprised if in a few more years of just this diligent work that we're all doing, we have these, declared all these islands protected areas, and we're managing them like our ancestors did. Thank you.
John?
So we're going to let May go, and
sorry.
you can
So
wrap it
I
up,
was
Brent.
really kind of stole what I was going to say. But my question would be back to the panel is, are you truly successful if you're not changing the attitudes and behavior of people who live near and adjacent to the resources they thrive off of? Are you truly successful when it's so far away and there's a disconnect? Because the point is, we wouldn't be having to do all these big initiatives and doing conservation at scale if we weren't losing the battle at home. So my question to you is, how do you you just asked it, relevance at home? Because again, going back to what Willie said, when we have fishermen bringing to the market a fish the size of my hand, and they're telling me that, you go and you want to buy some tuna, and there's no tuna. And I remember as a child, man, they would talk about the water boiling, and I could see it from my window. And now you have local fishermen in competition with big industrial fisheries. So my question to you is, we have to have this come back to home. You need to bring the MPAs home. It has to happen at home. And I think the Micronesia Challenge is a good example of how we first established at home and went big. So my challenge to you is, bring it home. Don't leave it out there. Bring it home. Change people.
Yeah, Ronnie?
May, mahalo nui for asking that question. I was waiting to tell this story. So I just couldn't figure out how to weave it in. We need both. And it's not about one is better. It's like planting a tree. It's right tree, right place, right season, right fertilizer, right water. And I don't know how it's going to work in the rest of the world, but in Hawaii, we had a very fledgling nearshore MPA movement that was being built on. And at that time, it was hard to find hope of why to do that. It's a pretty hopeless thing in some places, and in the places that there's still abundance, it's still relative to what it should be and what it was once not that long ago, right? So our experience is Popohanao Mokuakea. Well, we work very hard to make it relevant. All of our education is about, this is a whole archipelago. Look at the change, look at the similarities, look at the differences. What does the place where you love and live look like, and what should it look like? So that baseline to give a sense of hope and a snapshot of hope of what our expectations should be before the baseline of wellness shifted was such a huge, important first step for us. And we've been able to see some of this because we're a little bit older. It's 12 years. Our education's focused on that. When we have taken young scientists out, young local students out, blows their mind. And they get mad. They get angry about what's happening, and they demand something different. And our LMMA network is growing. The demand is growing. The science is starting to go, let's look at this species here, 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 all along the archipelago. People are starting to not say Northwestern and Maine. They're starting to say Hawaiian Islands. It's magical. So I think that it's actually back and forth. It's start wherever you can, and then go back and forth, and just make sure that you're doing them all, and you're working together. The worst thing that would happen is that the LMMA folks and the Big Ocean folks would come at odds. People thinking that or some academic kind of dialogue about which is better. Honestly, do we have time for that? Or do we have time to just do something? And I guess that's my manager on the ground. Every day I say, how do I protect 363,000 square kilometers and do my ancestors right? That's what I feel. I don't kind of care about the academic exercise between what is better. Let's do it all. Do whatever you can, because it's about the future. If we want a future, we got to leave it better than where we got it, right? So I think we need to work. We need to get these networks at every scale as close together as possible and celebrate each and every achievement. They're growing in there, and Russ said this earlier, so woohoo for the oceans that we are becoming the great success stories in conservation. Let's celebrate from the rooftops, each and every one.
I think Lonnie maybe took the words out of my mouth, but I think the one point is, as Oliveretti said, is that if we are worried about conservation and sustainable use, the two first foundations of the CBD, then we've got to do both. Conservation is more in the larger areas, sustainable use, because if we don't have the local MPAs, I think the reason they've been so successful is the local people realize that if they don't have some kind of local protection regime, there won't be sustainable use. And so I think that's something that wouldn't be happening. And the other thing is, the one thing that hasn't been pointed out today about these very, very large areas, that engages our governments and everything in those large areas, which is going to help us deal with the Asian fishing threat, which is on the large regional scale, not just Asian, but the very large fishers. It's the same thing as local fishers overfishing, and at least by having these, it engages our government and all of our partnerships, and so those fishing nations see us with a solidarity and an area that we want to try to protect.
Thank you very much. All right, outstanding. Well, I wish that we could have another hour or at least 30 minutes, but unfortunately we are limited on the amount of time that we have today. But again, I want to thank everyone from the floor for sharing their thoughts, and I'm looking forward to, before this gets too stale, writing these up tonight, getting them up online, and inviting all of you to access them. Again, if you would like to access this in the next 24 hours, please email me. Just come see me afterwards, and we'll make sure to get them to you. So at this stage, we're gonna wrap up. Before I turn over the floor to Elizabeth to make some closing remarks, I'd just like to say that I want to take this opportunity to thank all of the speakers and all of you from the plenary for contributing to the knowledge that's been shared in this workshop. I'm hoping that our experiences and the collective understanding that we've gained today as a group is helping to advance why we came here to Jeju and advance this conversation. That was the intention of this effort. And I look forward to collating and summarizing all this and making it available to everyone online. I'd also like to invite those of you that are interested. There's a knowledge cafe that will occur tomorrow. It's going to be at 11 o'clock sharp in the Knowledge Cafe room, which is on the bottom floor. And we're posing the question, we're posing some of these questions, is bigger better? And we'd really like to continue this conversation, invite all of you to come join us for that conversation beginning at 11 o'clock. So should any of you wish to continue the discussion that was started today and engage with Big Ocean and all the speakers that were here today, I'd like you to sign up. There are some sheets going around, and you have already put your name down. If you do put your name down, you're going to be added to the listserv. And there's some very interesting conversation going on through this listserv about large-scale marine protection. So if it's something that you're interested in joining, please feel free to do so. Some of you I know already have. And then finally, I'd just like to thank the United States government and the people of the United States for not only making this workshop possible, but for really supporting a lot of these initiatives that you've heard from today. That's not an insignificant amount of support, so thank you. With that, I appreciate everyone here, and I'm going to turn the floor over to Elizabeth to close out the workshop.
Thank you so much, John, and to all the presenters as well as to the audience. It's almost impossible to provide closing remarks and try to summarize the rich discussion that we heard today. We learned a lot about scaling up. We also learned that scaling down is equally as important as well as scaling out, reaching out to our stakeholders and our community, reaching up to the politicians, looking at all the different sizes of marine protected areas and actually how they can fit and nest together as well. We also heard much about the importance of partnerships, how we need to work with our donors, work with the communities, the local people, train our next generation of leaders that will be able to carry on afterwards. So I'd just like to say thank you. I think we heard a lot of inspiring words from Alani and others, and we look forward to working with all of you in the future. Thank you very much.
Yes. Okay. Carlos is reminding me. I'm going to turn on the video right now. If you'd like to see this, it's about a minute and a half, 2 minutes. I'm going to put it on right now. Our IT people, can you help me just go to the video?
It's a trailer.
The other one.
It's a trailer. Turn off the lights.
Thank you.
We are on Easter Island. Tomorrow we are going to start lights off.
The lights off.
We're going to
We turn the lights off?
live here at a place with 5,000 people. Happy to see the sea around the island in 2041.
All the boats going on every day.
3,000 meters of ocean. For the first time, to see what marine life lives here.
What you're going to find on Salas y Gomez is much more spectacular. You will see how the world was 2,000 years ago, and these islands have been still discovered by men.
Salas y Gomez Island, a teeniest speck of land in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
That's Carlos.
Because of the uniqueness of Salas y Gomez and Easter Island, these islands are irreplaceable. If they were wiped off the face of the earth tomorrow, those species would be lost forever.
subir aquí es de locos.
He was just in a workshop last week with Al. Great.
If you had to pay for this ocean, how much it will cost?
Okay, that's it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Johannesburg, and you guys had us.
See the photo? Where are you?